I'll never forget the way that day felt, the weight of it pressing down on me, the sting of his words still echoing like a curse. Daniel had looked me straight in the eye, his voice as cold as winter's steel, and said, "What's the point of keeping you if you can't even give me children?" Then he threw me out just like that, like I was a piece of trash left on the curb. 1 year later, I was walking into his wedding hall with 3 babies in my arms, and the look on his face. Well, let's just say God has a sense of humor. The weeks after he cast me out were the darkest I'd ever known. Every morning I woke up in my best friend Maya's guest room with that same hollow ache in my chest, like a part of me had been carved out and left to rot. I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering how the man I gave my whole heart to could toss me aside so easily. Maya would bring me tea, sit on the edge of the bed, rub my back while I cried. "Emma, you're not broken," she whispered again and again. "You're not less of a woman because of this." But his words haunted me, drilling into my skull every time I closed my eyes. 6 weeks in. I woke up one morning with a wave of nausea so strong I barely made it to the bathroom. Maya followed me, concern written all over her face. "You've been looking pale," she said, holding my hair back. "Are you eating enough? Maybe it's stress." I wanted to believe it was just stress, made sense after everything. But then it happened the next day and the next. Maya raised an eyebrow. "Don't you think you should take a test?" I laughed bitterly. "A test, Maya, I've taken hundreds." Always the same answer. Negative. She didn't flinch. Later that afternoon, she pressed a small box into my hand. "Just humor me." I locked myself in the bathroom, staring at that little stick like it was mocking me. With shaky hands, I did what I'd done 100 times before. Then I waited. When the lines appeared, 2 of them bold and unmistakable, I froze. My breath caught in my throat. For a moment, I thought my eyes were playing tricks. But they weren't. It was positive. "Maya," I flung the door open, waving the stick in the air. "Tell me I'm not imagining this." She gasped, covered her mouth with her hands, then squealed so loud the neighbors probably heard. She hugged me so tight I could hardly breathe. "Emma, you're pregnant. Do you hear me? You're pregnant." I just stood there trembling. Pregnant. The word felt foreign, like it belonged to someone else's story, not mine. The irony hit me like a tidal wave. Daniel had thrown me out, humiliated me, declared me barren without knowing life was already blooming inside me. His rejection didn't crush me anymore. It lit a fire in me. Pregnancy, though, was nothing like the movies. No glowing skin or soft music. It was morning sickness that lasted all day, swollen ankles and cravings that made Maya shake her head in disbelief. One night I cried because I wanted fried plantains at 2A. Hamsters and poor Maya drove across town to find a street vendor. Still, even with the discomfort, I was filled with gratitude. Every kick, every flutter reminded me I wasn't empty. I wasn't broken. I was carrying life. At my first ultrasound, the nurse squinted at the screen, then called another doctor in. My heart dropped. "Is something wrong?" I whispered. The doctor smiled, turning the screen so I could see. "Nothing's wrong, Mrs. Emma. But you're not carrying 1 baby. You're carrying 3. 3. I blinked. Surely I'd misheard. Yes. Triplets. Congratulations. I burst into loud, messy tears. Maya jumped up, hugging me tightly while laughing. "Emma, you prayed for 1, and God gave you triple." From that day, everything changed. My story spread through Maya's church, the woman abandoned for being childless, now carrying triplets. Women struggling with infertility came to pray with me, drawing strength from my journey. Then something I never expected, a local NGO that supported single mothers, heard my story. They offered financial help, baby supplies, and training to start a small business. Suddenly, doors I never knocked on swung wide open. By the time my 3 beautiful babies were born, 2 boys and 1 girl, I wasn't just a mother. I was standing on my own 2 feet. With the NGO's help, I launched an online baby clothing line. Orders poured in faster than I imagined. Within months, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. One evening, rocking my babies to sleep, I thought back to Daniel's cruel words. Love doesn't build a family. Children do. I smiled through tears, whispering softly to the little faces staring up at me. And now, I have both. Then came the twist. One afternoon, while packaging clothes, Maya rushed in with her phone, her face lit with disbelief. "You won't believe this. Daniel is getting married." I froze. Married? She shoved the phone at me. There it was in bold letters. Daniel Brooks and Olivia Harris cordially invite you to celebrate their union. The photos were glossy, the smiles wide. Olivia young, elegant, perfect. I felt something twist inside me, not jealousy, just irony. This was the man who called me barren, who threw me out like garbage, now parading as the perfect groom. Maya folded her arms. "Can you imagine? He humiliated you, then moved on like nothing. But listen, what if you went—" I frowned. "Show up to his wedding. Why not? He shamed you openly. Let the world see what God did for you openly." At first the idea sounded absurd, like something out of a movie. But the more I thought about it, the more it grew on me. He had humiliated me in public. Why shouldn't my redemption be seen in public too? That night I whispered to my babies, "Maybe it's time the world sees you." The morning of the wedding, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting a cream-colored gown. Quiet elegance, not revenge. My babies were dressed in matching outfits, tiny suits for the boys, a peach dress with a bow for my girl. Just looking at them, I felt unstoppable. Maya bustled around humming, "Emma, today is the day. Daniel is going to choke on his own pride." By noon, we packed the car and drove to the Grand Oaks Hotel. As I stepped out with the stroller, gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers erupted like wildfire. "Isn't that Daniel's ex-wife? She has babies, triplets." But Daniel said she was barren. Every step inside the hall felt like a drumbeat. Heads turned, phones clicked. Maya pushed the stroller proudly as if she were presenting royalty. Then I saw him. Daniel standing at the altar in his crisp suit, Olivia by his side. The moment his eyes landed on me, the color drained from his face. His jaw tightened, his hands twitched, and for a moment he forgot to smile. The silence was deafening. Even the officiant paused, unsure what was happening. I met Daniel's gaze squarely. No anger, just calm. Slowly, I lifted my baby girl and kissed her forehead. Then I walked to a seat near the front, where everyone could see. The bride looked confused, tugging at his sleeve. Guests murmured louder. "She wasn't barren. He lied. He's the problem." Daniel looked like a man whose world had collapsed. Finally, he stepped forward, voice shaking. "Emma, these children, are they—" I didn't let him finish. I stood up, my voice steady enough for everyone to hear. "Yes, Daniel, these are mine, my triplets, the children you thought I could never have." Gasps echoed through the hall. Some guests smirked, others whispered loudly. Daniel staggered, running his hands over his head, his pride unraveling in front of everyone. Olivia tugged his sleeve, embarrassed, but he couldn't even look at her. I continued, not with spite, but with peace. "You mocked me. You shamed me. You threw me out when I needed love the most. But God saw my tears. He heard my cries. And today he proved that man's rejection is not the end of a woman's story. The room fell silent, except for the soft cooing of my babies. Maya whispered, "You've said enough. Let's go." And she was right. I hadn't come for revenge. I came for truth. As I walked toward the exit, someone started clapping. Then another joined. Soon the hall was filled with applause, not for me alone, but for resilience, for faith, for the power of grace. Daniel just stood, frozen, pale, his wedding day ruined not by vengeance, but by truth. Olivia's smile had vanished, her eyes already filled with regret. Outside, I breathed deeply, kissed my babies, and whispered, "Thank you, Lord." I don't ever need to look back. For the first time in years, my heart felt light. My story was no longer about shame, it was about grace. And here's what I know now: no one has the final say over your destiny. People may reject you, mock you, even throw you away. But that doesn't mean God has forgotten you. Daniel thought my story ended because I was childless. Turns out it was only the beginning. So tell me, what would you have done in my shoes? Walk away quietly, or show up at that wedding and let the truth speak for itself? Do you think Daniel deserved that kind of humiliation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your stories too. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because rejection isn't the end. Sometimes it's just God's redirection.